You know why people don't respect you? Because you made it too easy. You said yes when you should have walked away. You tolerated the fake smiles. You absorbed the silent betrayals, and you let them play with you like you were a disposable toy. You think being kind buys you loyalty? Nah. Kindness buys you silence. Respect, real respect, is earned by setting boundaries, not by erasing them. They laughed behind your back because you gave them the front row seat to your downfall. You called it love. They called it entertainment. And the worst part? You still wanted them to care. You still held on like a fool, hoping they'd wake up and realize what they lost. But let me tell you something brutal, something raw. They never lost you. You lost them. You lost your time, your dignity, your energy. You gambled everything and bet on a heart that was never playing the same game. And now, you sit here, broken, wondering what went wrong. It wasn't them. It was you. You loved louder than you were respected. You gave deeper than you were appreciated. And you stayed longer than you were valued. That's on you. But it doesn't end there, because from now on, you rewrite the damn story. Let me tell you a truth they'll never say to your face. Most people are comfortable using you as long as you're useful. And when you're not, they'll disappear like ghosts. No warnings, no explanations. Just cold silence and locked doors. That's how the world works, darling. Not with honesty, but with convenience. You see, people don't leave you because they found better. They leave because they think you won't fight back. They think you'll just sit there, bleeding quietly. And guess what? Most of you do. Most of you cry behind screens, break down in bathrooms, scroll through memories at 2 a.m. hoping someone will miss you. But let me say this loud. Stop begging to be remembered in places you were forgotten. Stop trying to convince someone to see your worth when they chose blindness. You don't need closure, you need a comeback. You don't need pity, you need power. And not the fake, loud kind that posts quotes and screams for attention. I mean the silent kind. The kind that works in the dark, moves in silence, and explodes when it's time. You want to win? Learn this lesson hard. Nobody's coming to save you. Not your friends, not your lover, not your family. You are the damn rescue plan. You are the weapon and the shield. Every tear you cried, fuel. Every fake person you trusted, fire. Every betrayal, lesson. Use it. Turn your pain into discipline, your silence into strength, your loneliness into focus. You want to rise? Then fall first. Fall hard. Feel the pain, bleed, scream into your pillow if you have to, but get the hell up. Stop posting your breakdowns. Stop explaining yourself. Stop expecting apologies from people who sleep peacefully after breaking you. Let them go. Let them believe they won. Because the moment you disappear and work in silence, that's when they start to worry. That's when your name haunts their mind. Not when you cry, not when you beg, but when you vanish and reappear better, stronger, unrecognizable. That's your revenge. And it's quiet, it's cold, and it's permanent. You ever notice how the world claps louder for your downfall than your success? That's no accident. People are addicted to watching others break. Misery loves company, and comfort zones hate ambition. The second you start thinking bigger, acting smarter, moving different, you become a threat to their mediocrity. That's why they laugh when you speak your dreams. That's why they disappear when you need them most. Because deep down, they know you're capable of something they're too scared to attempt. And instead of rising with you, they'd rather drag you down and call it just being honest. Let me break it to you raw. They don't want you to win. Your glow makes their darkness more obvious. Your strength makes their excuses look weak. So they'll do whatever it takes to shrink you. Jokes, gossip, doubt. But you've got a choice. You either let them mold you into their fears, or you become the storm they never saw coming. And I'm not talking about loud tantrums. I'm talking about disciplined chaos. I'm talking about waking up every day with a grudge against failure, with a silent promise to yourself that you're done being their joke. Because they made a mistake. They thought you were soft. They thought your kindness was weakness. So now it's time to burn the script. Listen, pain is the greatest professor you'll ever have. It doesn't give lectures. It gives scars. Permanent reminders of what happens when you trust the wrong people, stay in the wrong place, or betray yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Every time you ignored your gut just to be polite, pain took notes. Every time you lowered your standards because you didn't want to seem too much, pain was watching. And now you sit there exhausted, not from what life did to you, but from what you allowed. But here's the twist. Pain isn't your enemy. It's your trigger, your wake-up call. You don't build resilience in comfort. You build it in silence, in loneliness, in war. You want to be strong? Stop avoiding the dark. Sit with it. Let it teach you. Let it destroy who you used to be. The old version of you, the one who tolerated disrespect, who begged for love, who doubted his own worth. He needs to die. Bury him. And from that dirt, rise as someone they can't recognize. No explanations. No warnings. Just war. And don't be fooled by the noise. Most of them ain't happy. They just got better filters. People out here faking peace, faking love, faking confidence, just to survive in a world that shames the real ones. But you're not like them. You've been through fire. You've had nights where you couldn't breathe, days where your chest felt like it was caving in. And yet you're still here. Scarred, yes, but standing. Do you even realize how dangerous that makes you? You survived what was meant to kill you. That's not weakness. That's lethal strength. So stop dimming your fire to keep others warm. Let them burn. Let your silence be the sound of your evolution. The Joker don't beg for applause. He sets the whole circus on fire and watches the clowns panic. That's you now. No more waiting, no more hoping, no more explaining. Just results, just discipline, just cold execution. You think revenge is screaming at the ones who hurt you? No. Revenge is becoming everything they said you couldn't be. It's success that doesn't post selfies. It's building in silence while they rot in confusion. You don't need to prove anything with words anymore. Let your actions be a language they can't translate. You disappeared for a reason. You suffered for a purpose. And now it's time to collect. Not their apologies. Your power. Your identity. The version of you that doesn't flinch anymore. That doesn't beg for closure. That doesn't care who stays or who leaves. You want to be free? Then stop asking for permission. Be ruthless with your peace. Guard your time like it's gold. Trust less. Watch more. And above all, listen to this every day, because the world doesn't care until you win. So win. Quietly. Violently. Relentlessly. You know what the cruelest lie they ever fed you was? That being a good person guarantees good treatment. That if you just love hard enough, stay loyal long enough, swallow enough disrespect, one day they'll wake up and appreciate you. But here's the cold truth. Some people don't deserve your love. They don't deserve your loyalty. Hell, they didn't even earn your time. But you gave it anyway, didn't you? Gave your attention to people who couldn't hold a conversation unless it was about themselves. Gave your support to people who disappeared the second you needed a fraction of what you gave. And now you're tired. Not because you're weak, but because you spent your energy trying to prove your worth to people who were never even looking. And that's your lesson. You don't chase people anymore. You don't fight to stay in places where you're treated like an option. You outgrow them, quietly, painfully, permanently. Because the real flex isn't proving them wrong. It's outliving the version of yourself that tolerated them in the first place. You want to know what strength is? It's not muscles. It's not noise. It's not followers or fame. Strength is choosing to walk away from everything that broke you without becoming like them. It's sitting in your silence, bleeding, shaking, and still whispering, I got this. It's waking up with chaos in your chest and still showing up like you're at peace. That's power. That's lethal. And they hate that. They hate that after everything, you're still standing. That you didn't crash. That you didn't go crazy. That you didn't beg. That silence, it burns more than 1,000 words. It makes them wonder, makes them panic, makes them regret. And you just keep building, keep growing. Keep becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need validation, doesn't need explanation, doesn't need closure. You became your own rescue mission. You became the storm that they can't forecast. And now they're left guessing while you're busy grinding. Let me tell you something about peace. Real peace isn't soft. It's not candles and affirmations. Real peace is war. It's the decision to cut ties without a word, to not reply, to not react, to not explain. It's the silence that screams, "I'm done entertaining clowns." It's walking past the same people who destroyed you like they don't even exist. And when they ask, "What happened to you?" you just smile. Because what happened was necessary. The pain was the price. The heartbreak was the initiation. And now you don't break anymore. You bend, you adapt, you evolve, but you don't break. You used to cry at night. Now you train in the dark. You used to beg for closure. Now you move in silence. You used to explain your worth. Now you show it without a word. And that transformation, that's revenge. That's redemption. That's what happens when a good heart goes cold. Not bitter, just done. So listen closely. Every time they remember you, let it hurt. Let your silence haunt them. Let your absence be louder than your presence ever was. And when they try to come back, because they will, don't seek revenge. Don't argue. Don't even speak. Just let them watch you thrive without them. Let them feel the distance they created. Let them drown in the silence they thought you'd never survive. That's the punishment. That's the lesson. Because the real glow-up is becoming everything they never expected without needing them to see it. So stay focused, stay cold, stay grounded. Let your pain be your engine. Let your scars be your armor. And let every single day be a silent declaration that you don't need anyone to complete you. You are not here to be liked. You are here to rise. Let the world doubt you. Let them talk. But when the dust settles, you'll be the only one standing, unshaken, unbothered, unbreakable. You ever realize how they only check on you when they feel you slipping away? How suddenly, after weeks, months of silence, you get that text. "Hey, how are you?" Not because they miss you, not because they care, but because they feel the shift. They feel the energy you use to pour into them being redirected into yourself. They sense your detachment, your distance, your glow, and now they panic. Because your absence is doing what your presence never did. It's commanding respect. See, people don't value what they have access to. They only value what they can't reach anymore. That's why your silence speaks louder than your words ever could. That's why your indifference hits harder than your love ever did. Because now they're on the outside, looking in, watching you grow, watching you evolve, watching you become the version of yourself that they'll never get to touch again. And deep down, that burns, because they thought you'd wait forever, thought you'd always pick up, always reply, always care. But not anymore. You finally chose yourself. And that, right there, is power. You need to understand something. They never broke you. What broke you was the lie you kept telling yourself that they'd change, that they'd come back different, that they'd finally see your worth. But they didn't, because they never intended to. They saw your value from day one. They just hoped you'd never see it for yourself. That's why they gave you breadcrumbs, just enough to keep you starving, just enough to keep you hoping. And you kept biting, kept waiting, kept bleeding for people who wouldn't even lift a finger for you. But that version of you, the one who begged, who cried, who compromised everything just to be chosen, that version is dead now. You buried them with every unanswered call, every ignored message, every night you stayed up trying to figure out what you did wrong. And now you rise. Not as someone bitter, but as someone dangerous. Because the most terrifying thing in this world is a person who no longer gives a damn about being understood. Let me ask you something. When did you start shrinking just to fit in their world? When did you start dimming your light because it made them uncomfortable? When did your loyalty become a leash they used to keep you in check? Think about it. You were never too much. They were just too small, too shallow to appreciate the depth of what you brought. And instead of stepping up, they chose to tear you down. Called you emotional, called you dramatic, called you too intense. But you know what I call it? Passion, presence, power. They couldn't handle it, so they tried to label it. And now, you owe them nothing. Not an explanation, not a warning, not a second chance. The old you would have argued, justified, tried to prove a point. But the new you just walk away, calm, silent, cold. Because you finally understand that peace doesn't come from being accepted. It comes from accepting that some people are meant to be chapters, not lifelines. Lessons, not blessings. And those scars you carry, they're not signs of weakness. They're proof you fought battles no one knows about. Proof that even when the world tried to crush you, you refused to stay down. You kept breathing when it hurt, kept moving when your legs were shaking, kept loving when your heart was shattered. That's not weakness. That's goddamn strength. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Because now you're not just healing, you're building, sharpening, becoming the storm they didn't prepare for. So don't soften, don't explain, don't go back. The version of you that's coming, it's a nightmare for every person who took you for granted. Keep going. Keep grinding. Keep cutting off the noise. You weren't born to be average. You weren't built for the background. You are the main event. The chaos they can't control. The silence that echoes louder than their screams. And when they finally realize what they lost, just smile and don't look back. You know what's wild? How they looked at everything you were, your loyalty, your effort, your presence, and still chose someone else. Not because that person was better, but because that person didn't require depth, didn't demand accountability, didn't challenge their comfort zone. You made them confront their own flaws just by existing. You were too real for their filtered lives. too intense for their shallow love, too solid for their shaky foundation. So instead of rising to meet you, they ran to comfort, to convenience, to someone who wouldn't force them to grow. And you sat there wondering why, asking yourself if you weren't enough, questioning your worth over and over again. But here's the dark truth. They didn't leave because you lacked something. They left because you had everything and they couldn't handle it. You were a mirror they weren't ready to face. So they broke you to feel whole. And now they pretend like they didn't notice your silence, like they didn't feel that shift when your energy stopped reaching for them. But trust me, they feel it. They feel your absence like frostbite on their soul. They just won't admit it, because acknowledging your worth now would mean admitting how badly they fumbled it. See, people like that, they don't say sorry. They just come back when they think you've forgotten the pain, when they believe enough time has passed and your guard is down. That's when they test the waters. Send a hey, like they didn't tear you apart. But you've changed now. You've learned. You've sharpened your edges and stitched your wounds in silence. So when they return, hoping to find the old version of you, the one that answered every call, forgave every betrayal, tolerated every lie, they'll meet a stranger, a colder you, a wiser you, a version that doesn't need closure because the silence was the closure. You see, the most powerful thing you can do now is to stay silent, not out of weakness, but out of strength. Because silence, it's surgical. It cuts deeper than words. It tells them, I survived you, and I don't need you anymore. Let them drown in your absence. Let them suffocate on the attention they used to take for granted. You're not punishing them. You're just healing without them. And that's something they never expected. They thought they could break you and you'd stay broken, that you'd beg, that you'd spiral, that you'd fall apart, just loud enough to give them a sense of power. But you didn't. You vanished. You bled in silence. And now, you rise in silence. That's power. That's revenge. Not the kind that screams for attention, but the kind that leaves people stunned, confused, haunted, because they can't figure out how you got stronger without their support, how you built a kingdom from the rubble they left you in. And let me be clear, it wasn't luck, it was grit. It was nights you cried yourself to sleep and still woke up to fight. It was mornings you didn't want to move but still showed up. It was pain that pushed you, loneliness that sharpened you, betrayal that rewired you. And now you're untouchable, not because you're cold, but because you learned that being soft in a cruel world is suicide. You learn to guard your peace like it's sacred, to protect your energy like it's currency. And the version of you that walks now, it doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it doesn't explain, it watches, it calculates, it conquers. So next time they wonder what happened to you, don't bother answering. Let your success echo. Let your silence hum like a threat. You don't owe anyone the old you. That version died for a reason. It was sacrificed so you could step into power, so you could rebuild with thicker skin and a sharper mind. You're not who they left. You're who they'll regret. And from here on out, every second of pain turns to purpose. Every scar becomes armor, and every quiet day is another brick in the empire they'll never be part of. You wanted peace? Earn it with isolation. You wanted growth? Bleed for it in silence. And every time you doubt yourself, remember this: they counted you out. So, make them wish they didn't. You know what's funny? The same people who made you question your worth, they'll be the first to act like they always believed in you when they see you shine. Like they weren't the reason you had to rebuild yourself from scratch. Like they didn't leave you when you were down, didn't watch you break and walk away like it was nothing. They'll say things like, "I always knew you'd make it," but they won't mention how they vanished when you needed someone to believe in you the most. They won't admit they mocked your silence. They just can't ignore the volume of your comeback. That's the thing about real growth. It exposes everything. Every fake bond, every plastic friend, every love that was only real when it was convenient. And when you finally outgrow all the noise, all the manipulation, all the chains disguised as care, you start to see people for what they really are. Temporary lessons dressed in forever promises. So when they come back, not to love you, but to feed off the light they never helped you build, don't open the door. Let them knock. Let them freeze outside the warmth you now protect. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean access. You can forgive and still move like they never existed. You see, you were never the weak one. You were the one who held it all together when everything inside you was falling apart. You were the one who stayed loyal when it was easier to quit. Who loved even when you were unloved. Who stayed even when you weren't seen. That's strength, not weakness. Don't let anyone shame you for having a heart in a world that thrives on apathy. They call it too emotional because they've numbed themselves so deep they forgot what being real feels like. But you still feel. And that's rare, that's gold. But now it's time to protect that heart, not with walls, but with standards, not with silence, but with boundaries. Because anyone who makes you feel like you're hard to love doesn't deserve access to you. Love shouldn't drain you. Loyalty shouldn't feel like a trap. And care? It shouldn't be a weapon they use to keep you guessing. If you have to constantly question your place in someone's life, you're already not in the right place. Walk, and don't look back. And let's get this straight. Being alone isn't a weakness, it's a weapon. Because in solitude, you find clarity. You hear the voice they tried to mute in you. You reconnect with your vision, your purpose, your hunger. No distractions, No noise, just raw truth and sharp focus. That's where beasts are built, in silence. While everyone's out there seeking validation, you're in the shadows, sharpening your mind. While they're addicted to being seen, you're addicted to results. That's the kind of energy that terrifies people, because you're not trying to prove anything anymore. You're just becoming quietly, steadily, without applause, without cameras, just discipline, pain, and a purpose stitched into your bones. You don't need their likes. You need your legacy. You don't need attention. You need impact. And guess what? That impact comes the moment you stop trying to be understood and start being unavailable. Not rude, not arrogant, just distant, guarded, focused. You ain't ignoring them, you're just prioritizing your future over their drama. And if that bothers them, good, let it. You're not here to be liked. You're here to change the damn game. So from this moment on, let every breath you take be a reminder that they were wrong about you, that you're not broken, you're just beginning, that you're not lost, you're just recalculating, and that the silence you gave them, that was mercy. Because the storm that's coming, the version of you they don't recognize anymore, it won't knock. It'll kick the door in and own the room. Stay calm. Stay hungry. Stay unfazed. And when they watch you from a distance trying to figure out how you survived what they thought would destroy you, don't say a word. Just keep walking. And let the silence scream your name. They thought breaking you would be the end of your story. That you'd fade out quietly, disappear into the shadows with your head down and your spirit crushed. But what they didn't realize is that some of us are built different. We don't die in the dark. We train in it. We sharpen. We evolve. We get colder, smarter, stronger. You see, pain didn't paralyze you. It programmed you, turned your heart into steel and your mind into a weapon. Every breakdown you had, that was a software update. Every night you couldn't sleep because your chest was caving in with betrayal, that was your system rebooting, deleting the weakness, installing rage and resilience in its place. So no, you're not who you used to be. That person died the day they played you, underestimated you, betrayed you. And now, you're not even angry. You're surgical. You're calculating. You're the quiet before the storm, the one they never saw coming. And the beauty of it all? You didn't need to scream. You didn't need to explain. You just vanished, rebuilt, and returned unrecognizable. Now your silence is a riddle, your distance is a message, and your glow is the karma they never thought would hit. People always talk about closure like it's some neat little bow you tie on pain before you move on. But the real world doesn't work like that. In reality, closure is you waking up one day and deciding you're done bleeding for people who wouldn't even offer a damn bandage. Closure is you deleting that number, not for revenge, but for peace. It's blocking that account, Not because you hate them, but because you love yourself more. Closure is accepting the apology you never got, learning the lesson they never meant to teach, and walking away like your soul depends on it, because it does. You don't need an explanation. You don't need their side of the story. You need freedom. You need stillness. You need revenge, written in silence and progress. And when they realize you're gone for good, that your love isn't coming back, that's their closure. That's the lesson. Because some people only learn when the silence gets too loud to ignore, when the seat they took for granted stays empty, when your name becomes the ghost they can't shake off. That's justice. Not loud, not messy, just final. You know what hurts the most? It's not the betrayal, not even the lies. It's the moment you realize they never even saw the real you, the version of you that loved them when they were unlovable, the version that forgave things even you didn't deserve. You gave them your soul in pieces, and they acted like it was nothing. And now they walk around like you were the problem, like your intensity was the issue, like your depth was too much. But deep down, they know the truth. They know they couldn't rise to meet you, so they buried you in blame. But you're done carrying their guilt. You're done being the emotional landfill for people who never had the capacity to hold space for your heart. You're not difficult. You're just not disposable. You're not dramatic. You just refused to shrink. And now you move like a ghost. No warnings, no explanations, just absence. And that absence, it's louder than any goodbye. It's the echo they can't outrun, the void they created with their own hands. And you just keep building, brick by painful brick, turning heartbreak into high ground. And when they finally look up, you'll be too far gone to reach. You know what makes you unstoppable? It's not the fact that you're breathing. It's the fact that you kept breathing when life tried to suffocate you. It's the fact that you were drowning in silence, abandoned by everyone you once showed up for, and you still found a way to stand up, brush the dust off, and move forward, like hell hadn't just torn through your soul. That kind of strength. It doesn't come from books. It doesn't come from fake motivation or morning routines. It comes from being broken, shattered into pieces so small even you couldn't recognize yourself, and then deciding, piece by painful piece, to rebuild something stronger than what was destroyed. You didn't get here because life was easy. You got here because it wasn't. Because people you trusted fed you lies with a smile. Because the same hands you held reached for someone else when you fell. Because the world showed you no mercy. So you learned to become your own shelter in the storm. And now, every scar on your body, every crack in your voice, every silence in your soul, it tells a story they tried to erase. But guess what? You're still here. And that alone is the middle finger to everyone who counted you out. Let's talk about discipline. Not the cute kind where you set goals and make vision boards. I mean real discipline. The kind forged in chaos. The kind that whispers, "Get up," when your bones are begging to stay down. The kind that says, "Keep going," when your chest is caving in and your mind is screaming to quit. That's the kind of discipline that turns nobodies into legends. You don't need talent. You don't need motivation. You don't need anyone's damn approval. What you need is rage. Rage against the voice in your head that says, "Maybe I'm not good enough." Rage against the past that tried to keep you there. Rage against the idea that you're supposed to be soft and silent while the world plays you like a fool. Nah. That version of you, obedient, quiet, always available, is gone. Now you move with purpose. You train in silence. You work while they sleep. You build while they gossip. And when it's time to show results, you don't speak. You arrive. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. You're too busy proving yourself to yourself. The grind is your therapy now. The pain is your fuel. And every drop of sweat is a promise to the old you that this time you're not backing down. You ever wonder why they pretend not to see you now? Why the people who once had front row seats to your suffering act, blind to your growth? It's not that they don't see it. It's that they can't handle it. They can't handle the fact that you kept going without them. That their betrayal didn't break you. It built you. That every time they expected you to fall apart, you evolved. See, you were never meant to be understood by people who fear their own reflection. You were never meant to be held by hands that couldn't even hold themselves accountable. You were meant to rise. And that rise, it's going to be lonely. It's going to be silent. But it's also going to be worth it. Because when you get there, wherever your version of there is, you'll know you did it with no shortcuts, no handouts, no fake love, just grit, just pain, just vision. And when they try to come back, let them choke on the silence they once used to ignore you. Let them drown in the distance they created. Because this time, you're not opening doors, you're building walls, and only the worthy get a key. Let's break something real down. They never wanted to see you win. Not really. They liked you better when you were quiet, unsure, doubting yourself. They were more comfortable when you were questioning your worth, lowering your standards, playing it small to fit inside their fragile little worlds. Because when you started leveling up, when your silence turned into strength, when your pain became purpose, that's when they got uncomfortable. That's when the fake smiles faded and the hidden envy surfaced. See, they don't hate you. They hate the fact that you became everything they never had the courage to become. They hate that after everything they did to break you, you didn't stay broken. You didn't self-destruct. You didn't beg for crumbs. Instead, you vanished, you healed, and you evolved into something they no longer recognize. That scares them. Because now, you don't just walk away, you disappear. You don't argue. You cut off access. You don't get revenge. You let karma speak in results. You learned that closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. And your decision was to stop giving CPR to relationships that were already dead. And let's not pretend like you didn't suffer. You did. You cried silently, while everyone around you thought you were fine. You carried pain in your chest, like it was oxygen. You smiled through breakdowns. You showed up for people who never even noticed your absence. You went to war every day inside your head and still gave people peace you couldn't find for yourself. That's not weakness. That's strength on a level most people will never understand. But you know what the real turning point was? The moment you stopped expecting people to rescue you. The moment you realized the only one who was ever going to save you was you. That's when you became dangerous. Because now you move with discipline. Now your heart has armor. Now your time is expensive and your energy is sacred. You don't explain yourself. You don't chase validation. You build, you protect, you progress. And anyone who tries to drag you back into that old version of yourself, they're already out of your life. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they don't exist. You burned that bridge, and for once, you didn't look back. See, the world doesn't reward the soft-hearted. It chews them up, spits them out, and laughs while they break. But if you learn how to be cold without losing your soul, if you learn how to protect your heart without turning bitter, you become unstoppable. You become the calm in the chaos, the storm behind the silence. You don't just survive anymore, you command. And the people who used to treat you like an option, now they gotta watch you shine from a distance. They gotta watch the same energy they abused be poured into your purpose, your grind, your peace. And the best part? You don't even hate them. You just don't need them. You're not healing for their closure. You're healing for your evolution, for your legacy, for the version of you that refused to die when life was trying to bury you. And every time you take a step forward, every time you breathe in peace instead of chaos, you're proving to that old, broken version of you that the war was worth it, that the silence paid off, that you were always the answer.